welcome to Jacey's Creek. I'm Emily. Today we are talking about Season 2, Episode 4, where Tamara returns, and this episode we're going through a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. So without further ado, let's get into it. But first, I want to say that you should follow my Instagram. It's Glitter and Potter, and you should follow my TikTok. That's Pacey and Joey for more content. And without further ado, let's get into it. The thing that we see is of Joey and Dawson. So Dawson and Joey are making out on a blanket outside. Gross, can I say? And they're like just making out and outside, like in a park or something. I don't even know where they are. And Joey goes, Dawson, and Dawson goes, what? And Joey sits up, and Dawson goes, what? And Joey says, what are we doing? And Dawson's like, what does it look like we're doing? Like, he's like, we're making out, Joey. Come on, get yourself together. And Joey's like, it's just not working. I mean, I'm freezing, and there's bugs. Can we go somewhere else? And Dawson's like, well, we can't go to my house, and we can't go to your house, so our options are kind of limited. I hate to admit it, but, like, he could have gone somewhere more romantic. Like, get yourself together, Dawson. And Joey's like, I know, but I feel too Swift Family Robinson. I mean, I'm a 20th century girl. We should make out in some music, mood lighting, and climate control. And Dawson's like, where's your sense of romance? I don't know why he says it. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, Dawson. This isn't a sense of romance right here. This girl was really uncomfortable, and you're asking her where her sense of romance is. Okay, then. And he's like, we got some gorgeous moonlight shimmering in the water. We got stars overhead, crickets chirping. We have plenty of trees, and if you get cold, you got me to keep you warm. No, I would run. I would run if I were you, Joey. And Joey goes, Dawson. And Dawson goes, what? And Joey says, you're so cheesy. And Dawson says, you don't like it? And Joey says, are you kidding? I find it unbearably sexy. Sorry. I had a cough because I'm about to throw up because of this scene. Oh my goodness, it's terrible. I mean, like, you just complain about the bugs, and now you're like, it's unbearably sexy. And I'm like, girlfriend, make up your mind. Obviously, you don't find this sexy if you are like, there's bugs all over me. I am sweating at the moment. But hey, like, to make him happy, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. That's basically what she was doing. I hate when, like, shows make the girl, like, kind of shut up for a minute because they, like, make a big deal, like, oh my goodness, like, like, she was complaining a little bit, and in the moment, like, Dawson just kind of shuts her down. They start, like, she's like, oh, okay, I'll get over it, and they start making out again. I don't like that at all. That makes me uncomfortable for her. The first scene we see of Pacey is, this is after Dawson finds Tamara, and where Dawson's dad is trying to sell a building, and it was to Tamara. And so this is where Dawson's trying to catch up to Pacey to let him know. And Dawson goes, Pacey, hey, I need to talk to you. And Pacey's like, let me guess. You and Joey are having another love spat, and you want my opinion. Well, here it is. Joey's being sarcastic and oversensitive, and you, my friend, are being self-absorbed and self-catering. And Dawson's like, this has nothing to do with Joey and I. This has something to do with you. And Pacey's like, what? Do I owe you money again? And Dawson's like, no, my dad and I were walking downtown today, and we ran into someone. And Pacey goes, who? And then that's when Andy walks up, and Andy has no idea about Tamara. So Pacey's like, hey, look who the cat dragged in. And Andy goes, nice to see you too, Pacey. Don't worry, I'm just here to get a few books out of my locker, and then I'll be on my merry way. And Pacey goes, Tell me, Dawson, who was it? And Dawson's like, we should really talk about this in private. And Pacey's like, God, you know what? I gotta go. If I'm late to Mr. Maddox's class again, he's gonna get me an aneurysm. I'll catch up with you after school. And Dawson's like, no, I gotta meet Joey for this art thing. And Pacey's like, the sacrifice we made for young love, huh? Listen, man, just talk to me later. Okay, I have a few thoughts on this. Number one, I love how Pacey's like, Joey's being a little bit oversensitive and you're being self-absorbed, because that just explains Joey's personality versus Dawson's personality and how Pacey takes it all in. And the second thing, I think that Dawson should have, grabbed a note and, wrote, Tamara is in town. Please don't run into her. Or just pray to God they someone ran into her. So I feel bad for Pacey because he has no idea, but Dawson knows. And he's just I don't know how to tell you because Andy, your new friend over there, doesn't know, and I don't want to, make it obvious and have different opinions, and this is none of her business, nor is it my business, but I don't want you to run into Miss Jacobs and be like, oh crap, well, there goes all my hard work. So there's a lot of scenes to really unpack here because there's just so many things that's just probably going through Dawson's mind. He's like, how do I handle this? The next scene that we have is of Joey, and it cuts to Joey and Jack, and Joey's like, hey Jack, and Jack is like, hey Joey, and Joey says, bad news. Stutter called and canceled on Bessie, so we can't open this afternoon. But the good news is you have the day off. And Jack says, okay, but we could open anyway. And Joey's like, well, I love to, but Bessie's at home with the baby, and I got an art lecture after school, so there's no one really to cover all the tables. And Jack's like, well, there's me, I could do it. And Joey's like, you? And Jack is like, what? You don't think I could handle it? And this is kind of a little bit of a scene where how Joey feels about Jack and what he thinks is gonna happen. So obviously Jack is a hard worker and that's what we see, but another thing is Joey kind of finds Jack not really good at it. And she says in this line, Jack, ever since we hired you, it's nothing but a slapstick comedy. I mean, you drop dishes, you misplace orders, you fall over yourself, and Jack's like, then why don't you just terrorize me if I'm a incomplete moron? And Joey goes, we don't want to terrorize you. And then she thinks about it, and she's like, alright, you can open. Bessie will be relief, and it will be like a test run. Just, don't set the kitchen on fire or anything, okay? And Jack's like, yeah, well, thanks for the unquality vote of confidence. But my question is, who's gonna cook? Is it Jack who's cooking? Maybe they have a cook. Maybe that's what it was. I don't really know who does the cooking. And also, Joey, that's kind of a stupid idea. If you don't think that Jack could handle it, why are you letting him open the restaurant? But hey, not my place to judge, but I do think that was the whole point of the scene. I'm not really sure what the whole point of this was, but it's just you kind of see that Joey thinks Jack's a moron. Jack's like, thanks for calling me a moron, dude. The next scene that we have is of Pacey, and Pacey is picking up what Andy dropped, and he goes, McPhee, I didn't know you were a closet movie freak. I just thought you were a freak in general. And then he reads the title, The Ghosts, The Way We Were, Pardon As I Gag, and oh my god, Dumbo! And I love this scene. Anyone who has seen this scene thinks it's so cute. And and Annie goes, okay, so I have a grade school mentality when it comes to movies. Get off my back. And Pacey's like, no, I love Dumbo. And Andy's like, you love Dumbo? And Pacey's like, are you kidding me? It's my pardon of all movies. I cried when I saw it as a kid. And Andy's really confused at this moment. She's like, you cried on Dumbo? And Pacey's like, are you kidding me? I bawled my head off. I mean, all those elephants made fun of him for those big floppy ears and then loses his mother. Oh my lord, that's the saddest movie ever. I really think that this is kind of the goofy and sentimental side of Pacey. And Andy's like, this is strange, dude. And Pacey's like, what? And Andy's like, well, I written you off for the good, and you dropped this whole Dumbo bomb on me. Well, he's just like, hold on, I think I might actually have feelings for you now. And Pacey's like, hey, look, I gotta get out of here, and I got no plans, so what do you say we walk downtown or something? And he's like, yeah, right. And she's like, this has to be a joke. And Pacey's like, no, I got no plans. And believe it or not, I'd rather spend the whole afternoon exchanging birthdays with a bride like yourself than flying solo. So pitch yourself. It's your lucky day. So are you in? And Annie's like, yeah, well, might as well. And Pacey's like, unless you have your heart setting on watching Dumbo. And Annie's like, nah, I've seen it like 500 times. And she's like, you're not gonna throw me on a bus or something. And Pacey's like, interesting idea, I might do that. And she's like, haven't actually thought about that. So we see like this first scene where like Pacey and Andy are actually gonna go out by themselves and try to figure out what they are. And I really like this because we see like Andy sees a sentimental scene of Pacey, and Pacey's like, you want to hang out? You want to do something? Let's go for it. And you can just tell that Pacey really is starting to like Andy, and Andy's starting to get the vibe of Pacey. The next scene that we have is of Joey, and it is an art lecture. And Laura, the person that we saw last episode who helped Joey with her project, she starts talking about what this pieces and the winter mess, and we see what they all think. And Dawson's like, I don't know if this is my thing, but Joey is like concentrating and she's very interested in it. And Laura continues about the winter mess, and then she is finally done and everyone claps, and it cuts to Dawson and Joey walking outside. So Joey's like, the lecture was great, wasn't it? And Dawson's like, it was certainly prolonged. And I don't like this because Joey spent years watching movies and filming with Dawson, and Dawson can't take like an hour or two to do this for her. And Joey's like, you hate it. And Dawson's like, no, not at all. I just don't see the assertive impression is really my thing. And Joey's like, your thing? And Dawson's like, yeah, I just don't know if it seems so unresolved. And Joey's like, unresolved? And Dawson's like, yeah, I mean, it's a blob of paint that offers more than a question. And I find that so mean. Like, it's like saying, oh yeah, it's just a video. Why are you watching that? What is the point of this? Like, he's so mean to Joey about this scene. And Joey's like, a blob of paint, Dawson? And Dawson's like, well, like, winter mess. What is the unlimited emotion expressed in that painting? And Joey's like, Dawson, newsflash, just because it's a painting does not belong a beginning, middle, and end, like some summer-released popcorn movie that doesn't change their emotions. And like, Joey's like, okay, just because you can't see the whole picture, like through beginning to the end, does not mean that you get to be like, oh, I don't think this is my thing. Like, what do you mean it's not your thing? And Joey's like, why are you doing this? Why are you saying this to me? And Dawson's like, I guess I like my art with the specific, compared, and to the point, like romanticizing. I can totally get into romanticizing, if you know what I mean. And Joey's like, yeah, I know what you mean. And then Laura walks up and she goes, hey guys. And Dawson says, hey Laura, great lecture. Liar. And Laura's like, did you like it? And Joey's like, it was awesome. And Laura's like, tomorrow I'm teaching an art class. If you two are interested in auditioning, you're totally welcome. And Dawson's like, I gotta work. And Joey's like, I'm afraid my art skills peak in the 3rd grade. And Laura's like, it's a beginning class. And Joey considers it. Again, I think Dawson was a total jerk when he was like, nope, can't do this. And he doesn't even bother to act like he likes it or get over it. He's just straight up honest, which is a good thing, but it's also a very bad thing. So the next thing that we see is a Pacey, and Pacey and Andy are now walking down the street, and Andy's like, this truck literally came out of nowhere and I didn't see it, so my staff is back in the shop. And Pacey's like, another accident? And he's like, you're officially the world's worst driver. And that's when Pacey sees tomorrow. And he's just looking completely shocked when And Andy's like, Pacey, what's wrong? And Tamara's like, hello, Pacey. Like, last time I saw you, like, we were, like, in this relationship and we had to end it because the school figured out. But, hey, how are you doing? Like, that's what it kind of reminds me of. And she's like, aren't you going to introduce me to your friend? Like, don't even act jealous. Don't even go there. Like, you did a crime the last time we saw you. Don't even act like you're like, oh, hey, how's it going? Like, I was your teacher at one point, so I want to know who your friend is. And Pacey just stands there, and then Tamara introduced herself, and she's like, Tamara Jacobs. And Andy's like, nice to meet you, I'm Andy. And Tamara's like, Pacey was a former student of mine. And Pacey, poor Pacey is just like, yeah, I was her teacher. I mean, I was her student. She was my teacher. And Tamara goes, well, I'm late for an appointment. It was really nice to see you, Pacey. It was not nice to see you, Tamara. And Pacey goes, yeah, likewise. And Tamara's like, and it was nice to meet you, Andy, and take care. And Tamara just walks away like it's nothing, while Pacey just has to stand there acting like a complete idiot the first time that he's with Andy. And Andy's like, what's the matter? You look like you've seen a ghost. And Pacey's like, no, I haven't seen her for a while, and she was my teacher. Like, Andy, why didn't this send a red flag to you? And she goes, your teacher, did she flunk you or something? Which, every time I see a teacher that called me a failure, I just hide away. So, it's not like I would be standing there in the middle of the street like, And Pacey goes, no. You know what, Andy, I'm gonna have to take a rain check on this. I'm really sorry, I gotta go. And Andy's like, what? Are you serious? And it cuts to Pacey watching Tamara enter the house. Which, I feel so bad for Pacey in this scene, because I'm like, dude, you just left Andy standing there. And it was so mean. Like, I know he's going through this emotional trauma, but why'd you have to take it out on Andy? Like, why couldn't you stay there and explain it to her? Like, you're gonna hate me when I say this, but here's the deal. So, the next scene that we see is Joey in art class, and Laura goes, I'm on to you, Joey. And Joey's like, what do you mean? And Laura said, how many other talents have you been hitting for me? And Joey's like, please, it's an apple and a banana. It's hardly a second coming. And Laura's like, you can be the most desperation if you want to. It doesn't change the fact that you're natural. You, my friend, have a gift. Do you draw much? And Joey's like, when I was little, I did, and I wanted to be like my mom was. And Laura's like, was? Why'd she stop? And Joey's like, she didn't. She died. And Laura's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Joey. That must have been incredibly difficult. When? And Joey's like, a few years ago, she had breast cancer. Which, at one point, they said that she has lung cancer. So, in here, they say that she has breast cancer, but the story might have changed throughout this. And Laura's like, she was an artist, and Joey goes, sort of. I mean, she taught herself. She wasn't professional like you. She did things for fun. I remember she used to draw pictures of my favorite stories and hang them in my room. And Laura goes, so art must be in your genes. And Joey goes, I don't know, I guess. And Laura said, well, if you enjoy this, Joey, I think you really pursued it. I could recommend some great classes. And Joey looks at her, and Laura's like, okay, wow, that look. And Joey's like, are you serious? And Laura's like, I'm serious. And you know what? You should take yourself more seriously. I mean, I may not be a great artist, but I like to have my eye on it. And my eye says that you're good. And Joey's like, why would you say that? I mean, I suddenly feel overcome with anxiety. And Laura says, because with talent comes responsibility, and you owe it to yourself to not let your talent go to waste. So here is someone who finally believes in Joey and her talent. Like, Dawson throughout this episode does not really show that much, like, oh, like, you should go and follow your dreams. It's mostly like Joey and Dawson just kind of going at it. But here Laura's like, you need to follow this talent because it is in your genes and you do deserve to have talent. And I feel like art is so sentimental to Joey because it was a part of her mom. And Dawson never took that seriously. and Pacey does throughout the seasons, and we will get into that next season. But there's like so much going on, and Joey finally has someone to believe in her, and it's so amazing and so great. And I love the last scene, I think, of Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility, and Laura says, because with great talent comes responsibility, and you owe it to yourself to not let this talent go to waste. I feel like, that's a great life lesson to have, and especially hearing it from an older person, for Joey, is a great thing for her to realize that, like, hey, this is a big deal to someone, and I need to bring it on my own to come here and do it with myself. So the next scene that we have is Andy comes to Dawson to ask if Pacey likes someone. But then we skip to Joey and her fifth scene, where Joey is sitting and sketching when Dawson walks up. And like I said, this is where she just had someone tell her that, like, you deserve to have great responsibility with this talent. And it cuts to Joey sketching, and Dawson goes, hey, you. And Joey closed her sketchbook because she's a little bit insecure, and it kind of shows. And Joey goes, hi. And Dawson goes, what's up? And Joey goes, nothing. And then pointing to her sketch pad, he goes, that's not nothing. What is it? And I feel like it's because Dawson is a movie star. It kind of comes like, oh, hey, like, what are you reading? And this is another personal thing that he should not be looking at, but we already know that he read her journal, so what privacy is in it for her? And Joey goes, it's a sketchbook. I was doodling. It's no big deal. And Dawson's like, well, what were you doodling? And she says, well, if you must know, it was a bowl of fruit. It was something I was working on in Laura's class. And Dawson goes, a bowl of fruit? You mean you're into this whole art thing? Let me see. And Joey goes, no. And Dawson says, come on. And Joey says, I don't think so. And Dawson goes, why not? I like this new art interest. You know, Joey Potter, artists is Quintine's powers of a great impression. And then getting up on the table says, master and still in life, I heavily declare myself a few minutes of a fan of your new hobby. That's the way he describes it. And I feel so bad because they kiss, and Joey goes, Dawson, why is it that your obsession in the movie is a life passion, but why my interest is a hobby? Big red flag, and Joey's not catch on to that. And Dawson goes, I knew as soon as I said hobby that was not the right word, and it just kind of came out. And then Joey starts getting her stuff together, like getting her things, and he continues by saying it was gone and then getting back. And Joey says, I really have to start finishing up, so I'll see you later. And Dawson says, well, are you just going to leave it like this? And Joey goes, like, what? Unresolved? And Dawson goes, yeah. And Joey says, why don't you consider a non-specific, uncoincident inspirational painting? And then kisses him on the cheek, then slaps him on the back and says, have a great day, Dawson. Oh my God, Joey. So she finally calls him out on something. And she's like, why is this a new hobby to you? Like, why can't you see that this is something that I am interested in? And the way that she's like, yeah, I'm gonna leave this unresolved because I have work to do and I need to get that done. Like, Dawson didn't really get that he needed to leave, and I feel like if Joey told him, hey, you need to leave, he would get all upset and start screaming at her. But, like, the way he stands on the table will forever bug me, because I'm like, that's a little bit dramatic. Like, I'm still mad at you for reading her journal. And here you are, like, yep, you have a new hobby, and I have no way of expressing how much I am so proud of you. And I feel like that's just, again, a love language problem, but the way that she just slaps him on the back, like, have a great day. Like, she's just, like, mad at him. Like, why? I don't know. So the next scene that we have is Pacey walking into the Weary's house, And Pacey goes, hello. And Dawson goes, hey, Pacey, the man, the myth, the legend. And Pacey, I don't know why Dawson started grading him like this. And Pacey's like, listen, Dawson, that little secret you had yesterday, tomorrow, you really should have told me. And okay, Pacey, you literally ran away from Dawson. Dawson could have handed a note or told him to stop, but he never did. And he never went back to try to tell him. And Pacey goes, listen, Dawson said, I tried to tell you, but you were often down in the hallway before I could get to you. And Pacey says, well, you see, we got ourselves in a situation now here, because I realized last night I'm not entirely over her. And Dawson's like, oh boy. Pacey, I'm your friend, and I want to be supportive and helpful, but the only thing I can do right now is to tell you in good consequences is to stay away. You haven't really fully recovered from the gossip follow-up from your last illegal entrance. There are girls your age, there are girls who like you. Would it be so terrible to fall for one? And I feel like Dawson never said that to Pacey throughout season 1 at all. And now finally he's like, don't do it. Don't bother doing this. You can't do this because there's someone who likes you, Andy, who came earlier. And Pacey is like, who? And Dawson's like, I'm not supposed to say. And Pacey's like, I'm not in the mood. Who? And Dawson says, Andy. Andy likes you. And Pacey's like, Andy hates me. And I disagree with this. But Dawson says, when a girl hates you the way Andy hates you, it really means that she likes you. That's the basic kindergarten psychology. Yeah, kindergarten, not high school, but okay. And Pacey says, yeah, but that's different, Dawson. Andy's a girl, and tomorrow's a woman. Pacey, if tomorrow basically effed a 15-year-old while she was 35, yeah, that doesn't make her anything, really. And Dawson's like, exactly. Pacey, you should be with the girl, okay? I gotta go, and I'm really sorry, but I'm begging you as your friend, don't go there. And I love how Dawson's like, you need to not do that to yourself. Like, you were hurt last time. You were crying last time, basically. You were embarrassed last time. You had to go to the school board, and your brother was there, and your dad was, like, the sheriff of the town, which I still don't get why they're not, like, talking about any of this throughout the scene. But, like, as your friend, as someone who you need to hear this from, don't do it. Don't bother doing it. Don't go there. Like, you don't need to go there mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I feel like that doesn't really click with Pacey. But I do feel like Dawson did a good job with that. The next scene that we have is scene 6 of Joey. And Joey's like, hey, Bessie, do you think I could have a day off since there's no one here? And there's a huge art exhibit at the college I'm dying to go see. And Bessie's like, sure, I'll go down hold on the fort. And Joey's like, you are without a doubt my favorite sister. And Bessie's like, I'm your only sister. And Bessie's like, oh, and hey, Joey, this place is dead. Why don't you take Jack with you? And Joey's like, there's a priceless art at this exhibit. He could do some serious damage. And Bessie's like, just take him. I feel sorry for him. And you just see, like, Jack with, like, the sugar packets, like, just kind of, like, messing with them. And he's just sitting there all alone. And Bessie even says he just sits there looking around dopey. And then Joey says, hey, Jack, do you want to go to this art exhibit? Do you know what this art exhibit is? And Jack goes, yeah. And she's like, do you want to go to one? And Jack goes, sure. And then Joey says to Bessie, this should be interesting. And I like that this is, like, the first scene where they get to hang out finally. But I'm surprised that she never really got to tell Dawson. So this may turn out very interesting. The scene that we see is of Pacey. And we know where this is going to go. So Pacey is walking to a warehouse. And he's in there. And Pacey goes, so look, I looked up this picture guy. Howard Playwork, the king of subjects. You know, one thing means to another. We're big on that at Cape Side. And Tamar goes, yeah, I know. And Pacey goes, do you think it's possible for us to have a moment without all these subtexts? And Tamara goes, I don't know, Pacey. Words have gotten us in so much trouble. And Pacey says, yeah, well, nothing has happened. I bet you thought I came over to your house to pour out... I love this part. And he goes, I bet you thought I came over to your house to pour out my wounded heart to you, to confess just how much I miss you, and to tell you that seeing you other day brought out old feelings. But really, I'm fine. You know, I kept thinking that I shouldn't be over this, but I am. You know, sexually, we were good together. But all respects, you and I were in two different planets. And that's what I came to tell you the other day. I'm fine. I've grown up. I love how Pacey said this. Like, he is generally... This is the most mature scene that we've probably seen of Pacey throughout this season 1 and season 2. Because Pacey's like, you know, I have changed. Like, this is me now. And he might have took Dawson's word into consideration. Like, you are a woman, and that's what he meant by we are on two different planets. And he continues by saying that we were good sexually together. And I do feel like they were good, like, sexually, but I also feel like they never communicated, like, emotionally. So that's what really, like, brought them, and the fact that they were, like, literally, like, 15 and 35. But he's like, I changed. Like, things happen while you're gone, and things are, like, here. And he's like, I didn't come to confess my wounded heart to you and to confess how much I miss you, because I didn't. And I feel like the moment that Dawson's, like, kind of snapped him out of it, that was the moment that he was like, oh, like, I don't miss her. Like, he's right. And Tamara's like, you have. I see that. And Pacey goes, so I guess this is the last goodbye. And Tamara goes, goodbye, Pacey. And as they kiss. Okay. And he's like, this Pendergrass has gone into something. Whoa. And Tamara's like, yes, he was. And he's like, Tamara. And Tamara's like, you know what, Pacey? I got a buyer coming in here in like an hour. I really need to clip this pace. And Pacey's like, so there's subtext again. And Tamara's like, no. And Pacey's like, listen, I know it's over. It has to be, but I just need to know. Oh, God, do you miss teaching? And Tamara's like, yes, very much. I miss teaching. I miss your teaching. And then they leave. So, yeah, I'm not going to talk about this very much because this makes me uncomfortable. But one thing that I do have to say is I really, really, really don't like Tamara. And this is kind of the last thing that we see of her, like, talking. But it just makes me mad because I'm like, she should have gone away. She should have stopped it. She should have, like, controlled herself. And the fact that she still couldn't control herself makes me think that she shouldn't be buying a warehouse in Cape Side. And I don't know why she was really there. I don't really understand why she was there. And I feel like she should have gone the moment that she realized that it was going to go somewhere. Then we continue on with the next scene. And Jack and Joey are finally done with the squidge. And finally, like, I love how he was like, if you look closer into me, you can understand that I am here for the moment. And we finally, like, Joey's probably feeling really good about herself because she's like, like, okay, finally have someone to do this with. And Joey's like, I'm actually starting to do some of my drawings on my own. And Jack's like, really? And Joey's like, yeah. And Jack's like, that's cool. I love to see anything you've done. I mean, if you want to show me, and that's how Dawson should have done it earlier. And Joey's like, well, there's not much to see yet. Laura just has some of us working with the fruit, like a bowl of fruit, which is most inspiration subject matter, to say the least. And Jack goes, see, you shouldn't be wasting your time drawing these things you're not passionate about. Draw what you love. And Joey's like, what I love? And Jack's like, yeah, that's what artists do. They go back into place and find themselves, and they inspire, draw what's important to you. And that's when Dawson walks up, and Joey says to Dawson, what are you doing here? And Dawson was like, I was looking all over you. I went to the ice house, and Bessie said you're here.
And Jack says, so, Joey, I'm gonna take off. And Joey's like, no, we can all walk back together. And Jack's like, no, it's cool, I gotta run some errands, but listen, I had a blast. And Joey goes, me too, thanks for coming. And Jack says, sure. And Dawson says, so you wanna check out the exhibit? And Joey's like, I already did that, Dawson. And Dawson's like, do you wanna show me what the paintings you like? And she goes, Dawson, it's okay, I know it's not your thing. You and Florence are just coming. That's enough. And Dawson goes, no, Joey, I want to be here. I want to be here with you, Joe. Talk to me. What's wrong? I know I hurt your feelings by too flip about this art thing. I'm sorry. Again, he calls it an art thing. Dawson, you messed up. And he continues by just saying, believe me, I'm trying to be us, Dawson and Joey, who analyze and argue and debate and disagree. But that was them as best friends, not as a couple, but okay. And he continues by saying, you put me in your thousands of places and things about movies. Why can't we return to the subject? It might actually be refreshing. Change. And Joey says, it is just so much more than that, Dawson. And Dawson's like, what? You're just closing yourself out of me? And he's like, what's changed? And what's changed is that the fact that you've just kind of like shrugged her off when she was trying something new. And Joey goes, that's not the point, Dawson. Nothing's changed. You and me are exactly what we were when I'm so tired of it. And she walks away. And I agree with Joey. Like, she has to deal with the fact that, like, Dawson doesn't see her as who she actually is. And she has to deal with the fact that he's just there to be there, and he doesn't understand what new things happen because Dawson is not really good at change, and that's how life is sometimes. So then we have a scene of Joey, and this is the last scene that we see of Joey. And it cuts to Joey and Dawson, and Joey's like, can we talk? And Dawson's like, yeah, if you want to explain what's going on, you're scaring me, and I'm afraid if I said something, anything's gonna lead to a fight. And Joey's like, Dawson, look, I've been thinking of how to make you understand my behavior lately. You know, I've been pushing you away, and I realized that I don't know anymore, Dawson. All I know is that you are very important to me, and this art thing, whether it's a hobby or a life passion, is very important to me too. It's the first thing other than you that's been important to me in a long time. And I do not like the response that Dawson gives. Dawson goes, Joey, that's great. I'm glad to see you have that. I really am. I just want to live what's great about us. So, because Joey has this hobby or life passion, you're going to make her stop everything for you? Toxic trait. I feel like there's like a toxic trait in every single episode with Dawson and Joey. And Joey's like, you're everything to me, Dawson, and I've been your sidekick, your companion, and half time for another half for so long, and that's how our relationship works. And it's a nice place for you, but for me it's scary, and it's because I realized aside you I don't have anything. My entire life is attached to you, Dawson. Big red flag, Joey. Like, I get that, like, Dawson, like, it's kind of like your boyfriend has to be your other half, which I understand. But for me, like, I'm kind of like Joey. Like, her parents, like, she knows people aren't going to live forever. And she has to continue moving on with your life. And I feel like that's such, like, a teen girl thing. Like, once you get to that point, you have to realize that things go on and life goes on and it sucks. And she continues by saying, I was working on these sketches and someone told me to draw what's important, what inspires me, what I love, and this is the only thing I could think of. And she hands Dawson the sketchbook, which was a sketch of Dawson. And Dawson goes, Joey, look. And Joey's like, and it's not okay with me, Dawson. I care about you so much, but if I ever lost you, I would be standing here, totally validated of anything else in my life. I live in total fear of nothing, of doing good, of going nowhere, and that's why I shut you out. I was just thinking about this the other day. So, I'm a lot like Joey. I've said this a couple of times. And I feel like I'm moving in May, and I'm going to say this a lot throughout the podcast, especially since I'm pre-recording most of them. But I'm moving, and I'm starting to shut people out a little bit, because a lot of my friends, like, when you get in high school, like, things change, life changes, we're not friends, we'll be, like, friends we used to be. And I feel like with Joey, it's hard for her because she's like, I know my dad's in jail. Like, he went away. Bessie has a baby. She has a life of her own. And my mom's not here anymore. And you are like my only friend at the moment, and that's not okay. And I feel like that's where Jack kind of comes in to this episode too, because Jack was very important to kind of say, hey, like, I like this too, and she kind of makes a new friend. But with Dawson, he's like, excuse me, keep in mind that Dawson's parents were not divorced at this time. And there was a lot of things going on with Dawson's parents, but they were still together. He never knew what it was like to have a family member, like, just abandon you, like Joey did. And so Dawson says, first of all, I'm not going anywhere. Secondly of all, I just want you to be happy. Now, whatever that means, I'll provide it or support it or completely invalidate it with it. I mean, whatever it takes. I just want us to stop fighting. And Joey's like, Dawson, I wasn't fighting with you. I was fighting with myself. The fact that Dawson never got what she was trying to say kind of bugs me. And she goes, part of me wants to send you off from me, and the other part of you just wants to hold you so tight. And Dawson says, well, which part of you want, Joe? And he kind of was like, are you going to break up with me? Is this how it's going to end? And Joey's like, Dawson, I don't mean to sound like a Baba Paint, but we just want one thing unresolved now. And Dawson sighs and they hug. And I feel like that one thing just kind of drags them to the core of their breakup, which we'll see in a little bit. And it just, like, sometimes you just need to leave things unresolved, but in other times, leaving things unresolved it creates a bottle of messages that are just unsweet. So the last scene that we see is of Pacey, and it cuts to Pacey knocking on the window that Andy's at, and he walks over and takes the seat, and he goes, is the seat taken? And then he takes a bite for burger, and he goes, how's the burger here? Which, I love that. And automatically, Andy's like, Dawson told you, didn't he? Don't play dumb. When people play dumb, when dumb people play dumb, it's disconcerting. And Dawson told you what I said, and that means you're acting weird. Just a minute. And Pacey's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And Joey and Andy goes, yes, it's true. I had a brief flash of him maybe feelings like I didn't possibly hate you. But it will pass, so there's no need to hear or a big head or something. I love how Pacey's voice just gets very deep. He's like, and he gives her like the eyebrow raise, and every girl knows how we felt when he said, so you think it'll pass? And he's like, yep, it'll pass. It most likely will pass. No, it'll totally pass. In fact, I think it just did. Yep, there, it went gone. And Pacey goes, you like me. You really like me. And I love this scene so very much. It just gives me like the butterflies. And Andy goes, Pacey, please stop torturing me. And Pacey's like, I want to, but I can't. There's just something about you, Miffy. You bring out the saddest in me. And Pacey and Andy are glanced across the street, and Tamara gets into her car. And Andy goes, don't you know that woman? And Pacey goes, I did, but not anymore. And that is the end of Tamara Jacobs being in this show. And I feel like this moment right here with Andy sitting beside Pacey was kind of what they were talking about earlier with Dawson. Like, Andy was a girl, and Dawson told him to go for a girl. And in order to get to the girl, he needed to continue going on with his life. He needed to say goodbye to Tamara, whether that was what he did with kissing her, or whether that was just saying goodbye, whether that was just not saying anything at all, but he needed to get his goodbye in. And obviously, Annie finds out later, but for her, it wasn't so much that she needed to know. Like earlier I said, why didn't he just tell her? Well, really that was kind of a big part of him for a little while, and it hurt him so much, and he didn't want to, like, have that label on him, like, oh, I had sex with the teacher. Yep, that's what my life has become. And I feel like when you really put that into consideration, there was a lot of things going on. But I feel like this was the breaking moment for Pacey. And saying goodbye to Tamara and going on with this is just really hard for him. So the last thing that I want to say is that there was a lot of things in common with Joey and Pacey. So we see Joey finding this new hobby, new life passion, and Pacey has to say goodbye and move on and have this new girl in his life. So them two, what they learned, what the two main things was that a lot of things came together when they started talking. And I feel like this is the one thing that they have in common, is when, even though they didn't have any scenes together, they didn't know what each other were like or what they were doing, there was similarities throughout the episode. Like, Joey had to find her new life passion and Pacey had to find his new woman, and there was a lot of scenes like this throughout the episode that we can clearly see that Dawson was trying to, like, get them to like, be there. And even though they also left things unresolved, like, Joey had to leave things with Dawson unresolved, and Pacey had to leave things with Andy unresolved, and Tamara unresolved, and they just had to be okay with that. And there was, obviously, those things kind of bottled up at the end and they exploded, but there was a lot of things where it was like, oh, okay, like, things happen, life happens, and I feel like that's where we really came down to this episode. If you like this episode, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, where I will be posting every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to follow my Instagram, Twitter and Potter, and my TikTok, Pacey and Joey. And I'll catch you next time. Bye, guys!